This anime begins by showing us a city under attack by monsters. While this is happening, the people in the city try to hide to save themselves. Additionally, we see a man riding a dragon, launching powerful attacks against all the monsters in the streets, and successfully rescuing the people who managed to survive the attack. However, this same man tells us about a night when he was in great trouble because his greed for more power had made him many enemies. So, to set things right, he decided to perform a spell that would lead to his reincarnation, allowing him to start over and avoid that day from happening again. He successfully reincarnated as the third child of a wizard clan. However, this man, now a child in Seika, is very lacking in power. In his new life, he tries to perform a simple spell to make an element stone shine, but he fails, leading the other children, who are his siblings, to mock him. Then, his father confirms that Seika couldn't complete the ritual because he lacks magical power. After this, the anime provides a bit of context, revealing that in this world, there are humans and demons, and takes us to the mansion of the Lamproger clan, a very famous and important wizard clan. It also discusses Seika, who is reincarnated as the third child of this clan with the name Seika Lamprobe. In a change of scene, we see Seika collecting some leaves to use as materials for some spell experiments. He does this without any issues and successfully brings some mice and also a crow to life. However, one of his siblings Glee comes to bother him. Seika uses the crow he summoned earlier to free himself from the bully, but then another boy comes to stop the fight and drives the crow away from attacking Glee. Seika decides to go back into the mansion and meanwhile narrates that because he is a child born from his father's affair, he is almost always ignored by everyone, and even his birthday is not celebrated. However, Seika doesn't care much about this because he is very busy making paper to create the figures we saw at the beginning of the anime. But while he is busy, someone knocks on his door, and it is Yifa handing him a sweater that Seika made. He was left lying down while performing some spells with leaves. But at that moment, Seika's brother arrived, boasting that he would be attending a prestigious magic academy and that, unlike Seika, he would become a very powerful magician. He also taunted Seika, saying that since Seika didn't even have a mother, he would never have the privilege of going to the academy. However, while he was talking, Seika's father came and told Glee that he had a lot to do, so he should accompany him. But Seika asked his father if he could go too. Then they went to the training grounds where they would practice magic, and the older brother gave a small demonstration of his power where he tried to create a wind sword that shot stones to destroy them. And it worked. But now it was Glee's turn, who prepared to cast a fire spell called Fire and similarly threw it at the stone. However, Glee took advantage of Seika and said that since their father was there, Seika should also perform magic. So Seika decided to try. In reality, Seika had no power, let alone mana, but it was all because Seika didn't want to reveal his strength due to a promise made before reincarnating. However, he wanted to show Lee that he was not weak so that Lee would stop bothering him. So Seika gathered all his strength and, without casting a spell, launched a very powerful and blue-colored fireball called the Flame of Achievement, destroying the stone and leaving his brother and even his father gaping. His father then concluded that there were more people in the world capable of using magic without using mana, making Seika's magical nature very unique and powerful. But in reality, he said this because he didn't know that his youngest son was a reincarnation. Nevertheless, Seika asked his father for permission to study magic, which was then denied by his father because Seika didn't have a mother, meaning there was no chance of succeeding in magic. However, his father said that he would appoint a magic tutor for him so that he could focus on learning. After that, they parted ways and each began to follow their routines, while Seika focused intently on learning everything about magic in that world, not knowing that his father was watching him. And so time passed, and the anime jumps 4 years ahead to when Seika is already 11 years old, where he has made significant progress in his magic studies and has therefore become very strong. So, he decided to open a door to another world to seal a creature that had been sealed in a previous life, and when the seal was opened, an adorable little girl named Yuki appeared. In previous life, she wasn't a little girl but a very beautiful adult woman. The strangest thing was that Yuki remembered Seika even though she had a completely different body. So, Seika asked her why this change in appearance happened, and she answered that the size and age referred to the amount of spiritual power she used to seal herself. Seika then asked how she could recognize him, but it was all because this creature recognized Seika's spiritual power. In a change of scene, we see that Yuki is having a hard time because she accidentally spilled a little water on the floor. However, because she was very arrogant, she humiliated Yuki and said that she didn't want any trouble. So, if there were any problems, she should come to her room that night so she could show her how to treat a slave. Seika heard this conversation and decided to step out and defend Yuki, making Gly very angry and trying to hit Seika, but he managed to block her attack. So, the very upset Gly threatened Seika that he would pay for it, and finally, Gly left the place, leaving Seika with Yuki. There, Yuki told Seika that he had to follow her immediately because there was something she wanted to show him. They left the big house, and she showed him a very injured little creature that appeared to have been attacked by some crows. Yuki asked Seika if he could heal it, and he said he would try, but to concentrate, he had to do it without anyone watching. So he asked Yuki to look away. Seika then took a strand of hair from the creature, placed one of his paper figures on it, and then used a spell to heal the little creature. He successfully healed it. So, Yuki thanked him for his actions and said that he was also very strong like her siblings. Seika then said that he had noticed that Yuki could see things that others usually couldn't. So the girl shyly told Seika that she didn't know what he was talking about. Seika then said that he had been following her and noticed that Yuki could see spirits. So he asked the girl what exactly she could see, and she admitted that she had an ability inherited from her mother that allowed her to see elemental creatures that like to gather in places with a mana presence. That's how she was able to find Seika's sweater earlier. However, she mentioned that Seika's belongings were quite strange because they attracted more elementals than usual, but for some reason, none of them approached Seika. So he observed this closely and asked Yifa if she could communicate with the elementals, to which she replied that she wasn't sure, but there was one time when she shouted at them to run away, and they understood her. Then Seika thought for a moment about an issue from his past life where some spiritual foxes could communicate with spirits, which led him to investigate whether he could do the same but never succeeded. So, Seika took this opportunity to learn from Yifa. Seika then asked if she wanted to learn magic, and she said yes, but she couldn't because she lacked the mana to use magic. Then Seika said that it didn't matter and at the same time summoned a fire spirit, then told the girl that she should communicate with the spirit to make it disappear. After a few attempts, she managed to make the spirit understand and disappear, and then Seika thought that she had a lot of potential but still had a lot to learn. So, he told the girl to get ready because they would start training in their spare time. Time passed, and Yifa and Seika continued to practice to perfect their ability. Finally, the day of Seika's 12th birthday arrived, but as usual, no one celebrated it. However, for Seika, that was normal, and as he headed to his room, his two brothers came. Lilia said that she would help him train. So Seika asked why there was this surprise, and Gilly said that he was no longer a legitimate child and also didn't have mana to become a wizard. So, most likely, he would end up in the military. Therefore, they will help him practice for the day when it arrives. However, Luke, the oldest brother, did not seem to agree with the way Lilia spoke to Seika. So, more formally and politely, he explained to Seika what was happening, which was that a sergeant had come to their house to give some fencing lessons. He suggested that Seika join them for practice only if he wanted to. But at the same time, two servants from the house came looking for Luke in a hurry because they believed there was a giant monster attacking the town. Although their father had managed to drive it out of the town, the monster was heading towards the forest and towards the place where their house was located. So Seika told Luke to get ready, and just at that moment, the monster arrived at their house. It was an ancient triton, and we saw Glee running in fear like a crying child. So, he took control and ordered everyone to close the doors and windows and find a safe place to hide. However, when he realized it, Seika ran towards the mansion's exit, while outside the servants were in great danger. Seika went outside and fortunately saw them, then ran quickly to help. But before Seika reached them, the monster attacked them. However, Yifa was wearing a necklace, and the necklace protected her from the attack. So, the two women managed to break free and run away. Meanwhile, Seika drew the monster's attention to follow him to a safe place where he could defeat it with one strike. While everyone inside the mansion watched, something very unexpected happened. Seika prepared an extraordinary spell that was fired like a bullet, successfully killing the monster. Additionally, everyone who witnessed this unexpected event began to trust Seika more. They even clapped and celebrated extraordinarily. But what was truly unexpected was when Seika's father arrived and was greatly impressed by what he had just seen. From then on, everything changed for Seika. He was now more valued in the mansion, and they even threw a grand party for him. Before they began eating, Seika's father boasted about what his son had just done, which he believed even a veteran would struggle to overcome. Furthermore, Seika's father asked how he knew the monster's weakness was fire. Seika said he read it in a book. So, his father congratulated him and said he would give him a suitable reward. Seika stood up and told his father that he would ask for a reward because he had worked hard to learn magic. He asked his father again to allow him to enroll in the Magic Academy. His father didn't hesitate long and decided to grant the request. However, he warned Seika that being the son of a count didn't mean he was exempt from entrance exams. Seika had to face them and pass on his effort. Seika said he didn't need to worry, but he also wanted to ask for one more thing, which was to bring someone to the academy to be his servant, which was then approved by his father. Although Yifa argued that she had no control over magic, Seika decided to give them a demonstration of what he could do. So Seika handed the magic wand to Yifa and told her that now was the time to utilize the training they had received. Very carefully, Yifa prepared to summon the elements of fire, and after uttering some delicate words, she summoned a large firestorm, fortunately directed towards the window, startling everyone. Then Seika asked his father for his opinion after seeing Yifa's power. So his father, after taking a deep breath, agreed to Seika's request again. However, this decision made Glee very upset, who without second thought immediately protested to his father because, in his opinion, their family tradition was to send only one person to the academy. Then his father told Glee not to worry because he would still respect their family tradition. So as a consequence, he had to prepare to join the armed forces while Seika would go to the academy. These words almost traumatized Glee because suddenly all the burden was on his shoulders, but his father reassured him that for years, he had never seen Glee train his magical talents, while Seika almost every day saw him studying and practicing. Furthermore, her father pointed out that Crystal was surrounded by bad friends and always played behind her back, so the military would be the best option for her. Therefore, Glee, feeling very frustrated, decided to challenge Seika to a magic duel, and the winner would be the one to go to the academy, while the loser had to leave the mansion, which was very sensitive because family duels were acts of honor. So her father asked Seika if she agreed to the duel, and Seika replied that she would not refuse the duel. After that, her father agreed that the duel would take place the next day, right at noon, and the duel would be conducted according to imperial regulations, which meant no real weapons could be used and also no medium level or higher magic. Furthermore, he would be the judge. After that, night fell, and Seika went to her room and prepared some paper dolls for her magic. At that moment, Yuki appeared and asked Seika if she planned to kill her brother, but Seika told her that she wouldn't do something like that even as a joke. But at that moment, someone knocked on her door, and it turned out to be Love, who came to talk to Seika because, as we know, Love is very friendly and understanding, unlike Glee. So Seika told her to go on and asked why she came to her room so late. In the evening, Lube apologized for the delay but wished Seika a happy birthday and gave her a gift in the form of a crystal pen. Lube said it was to motivate her to continue learning and studying about magic. She also took advantage of the situation to apologize to Seika for being tough on her, but said that she had planned to get close to her for a long time but didn't know how to do it properly. After a little chat, Luz asked Seika to refrain from dueling against Glee because it was very clear that Seika would win and she considered it a sure thing, so she hoped everything would go well at the academy. So the conversation ended. Then Seika began to admire her new pen, and suddenly Yuki appeared and spoke kindly about Luz, but suddenly Seika felt something very strange outside her window. And indeed, she was attacked by Glee, who seemed impatient to wait until tomorrow for the duel. So, with curiosity, she told Seika that she felt sorry for her because she wouldn't be going to the academy because it was all just luck and she shouldn't celebrate it too much. Furthermore, Gly emphasized that he deserved to go to the academy because he was much stronger. However, Seika remained calm and warned him that what he was doing violated the rules set by her father. But Gly angrily said that rules are for cowards and he wanted to fight here and now without any rules, and the loser would be the one who surrendered first. So, without further ado, he attacked Seika with deadly magic, but Seika was not hurt. So Gly began to cast a lot of magic at her, but Seika summoned a very strong light shield. Additionally, Seika brought out one of her paper dolls used for killing and torturing Gly until he surrendered almost instantly. After saying that, Seika would tell her father the next day that the loser in the encounter was Gly, and while he was unconscious, it seemed Yuki asked Seika if she was sure to let Gly live after showing his true power. But Seika had made a promise to Luz, and that's why she restrained herself so much. However, Seika revealed that all of this was part of a plan she had thought of some time ago, but to execute it, she needed help from a Cyclops giant named Bonzo, Seika's old friend. So Seika asked Bonzo to go to the mountain and find the ancient Triton to attack him, which means everything had been planned by Seika. After that, she brings Gly into the mansion, and this is the end of this scene. Then, some time passed until spring arrived, and it was time for Seika to leave for the academy. This journey was quite long, and they had to leave on time for the entrance exams. Along the way, Seika gave a beautiful necklace to Yifa. However, not just any necklace, but a necklace made of magical stones to attract the elements. And so began the great journey to the academy, and after 7 days, they arrived at the magnificent Ladonia Academy. It looked like a huge fortress at first glance. When they got off the horse carriage, they arrived at their inn. Inside, Seika told Yifa that they would sleep in separate rooms. At that moment, Yifa tried to persuade Seika to let her sleep with him that night. However, it seemed Seika didn't understand a woman's signals, so he pretended as if nothing happened. This made Yifa leave, and then Yuki appeared. Yuki explained to Seika about Yifa's true intentions and why asked to sleep with her that night. However, Yuki suggested Seika learn more about romantic relationships and such things. However, Seika didn't pay much attention to it because he preferred to study magic rather than understand a girl's signals. The next day, Yifa and Seika arrived at the academy's entrance. However, at that moment, Seika felt the presence of a strange spell. However, he quickly calmed down because it should be normal since it was a magic academy. At that time, a woman gathered all the young people as they were going to take an exam. They were asked to line up, and when it was Seika's turn, he introduced himself to the woman, who quickly recognized him as a member of the Lamproji family. However, the woman asked Seika to place his hand on the crystal ball, which was used as a spell measurer. Then, Seika explained to us about the magic system in this world based on the 4 elements, and some variations classify magic into light and darkness. Then, Seika asked Yifa to place his hand first. When Yifa placed her hand on the crystal ball, its color turned red and green, which meant Yifa had an affinity with the elements of fire and wind. Now, it was Seika's turn. However, when he placed his hand on the crystal ball, it didn't shine. However, according to the woman, this might be due to an error in the crystal ball because it only detected magic from the elements, not additional elements, from light or darkness. Then she asked Seika if he had an affinity with any of those variations. Then Seika said what happened was that he didn't have mana, but then a rather arrogant girl appeared and sneaked between the lines, then placed her hand on the crystal and a white color appeared and shone brightly, which meant that this girl had an affinity with all 4 elements, which meant she was very powerful. Then Seika continued to watch her and thought that she used to be like that in a previous life, someone who felt very strong and untouchable, but then came to the entrance exam, and as the first stage, candidates had to undergo a written evaluation. But Seika was confident in her results, while Rifia, on the other hand, wasn't so sure because she realized she had failed in some answers. However, Seika told her not to worry and to try to balance it out with the practical exam, and as the two talked, Seika saw the arrogant girl walking down the hallway, even carrying a sword. So Seika was convinced that she was truly strong and not just pretending to get attention. A few minutes later, the practical exam began, and the person in charge of guiding the candidates suggested they use magic to reach the targets placed in the field. He also said they were free to use any type of magic they wanted. So, some boys started the test, and we saw that they could all use magic to shoot themselves at the targets, and soon it was Rifia's turn to try. She prepared to use the same magic she had used before at Seika's house, and when it hit the target, everyone was surprised by its great power. Even the tutor was surprised because the target was protected with fire immunity, and yet Rifia still caused significant damage. So, Rifia moved on to the next target, preparing a strong wind spear that destroyed the target and made everyone shudder. Everyone present, including Seika, congratulated Felicita for her performance because she didn't expect that she could also use wind magic. After that, it was Seika's turn, who prepared a sufficiently strong blue fireball. Seika then moved on to the next target, preparing mysterious magic that turned the target into a large pyrite stone. And for the third performance, Seika moved on to the next target and with another powerful magic managed to turn it into a giant block of ice. Thus, Seika completed her training phase, but the evaluating tutor was still puzzled by the great power he witnessed. After the training phase was completed, dusk arrived, but the tutor decided to stay to observe Seika's strength. The woman who gave the initial induction arrived and asked the tutor about the situation. The tutor explained everything that had happened and recounted that Amio, the arrogant girl, also showed extraordinary strength, even higher than Seika's. The woman was very pleased that the student she recommended turned out to excel, and in the next scene, we saw all the candidates approaching to see the final results, where the names of those who passed appeared. Seika found that the name table was sorted from the strongest to the weakest, and she realized that she was in third place. What she didn't expect was that Yifa was in second place and the first was Amio. Several days later, Seika and Yifa received acceptance letters to the academy, so they were officially admitted. They entered the main hall as the ceremony for the new students was about to begin. But on the way, Seika saw something strange, which also caught Yifa's attention, namely some dark elementals around, which was quite unusual. They approached to see why those elementals were there, and they found a large seal engraved on the floor. Yifa informed Seika that it felt very bad, but Seika said it was better not to touch it because they didn't know what it was. However, Seika, being cautious, decided to release some of her paper figures and they eventually left the ceremony room, where Seika once again saw Amu while she went to give the opening speech to everyone, preparing them and informing them that she would be the representative of all the new students. As Amu spoke, the seal outside became active and Seika immediately realized that thanks to her paper figures, a few seconds later a major incident occurred inside the room. A group of demons entered to attack the place without warning, but everyone began to fight against these demons. But all was in vain as they were quite powerful. Seika realized that there was one demon left, so she used her paper figures to analyze the area. He realized that there were demons out there calling others, so he told Amu to take care of herself and avoid unnecessary battles while he dealt with the matter. In an instant, Seika disappeared and appeared where the demon summoner was, but Seika approached quite amiably, although his true intention was to capture him. However, this demon wasn't friendly with Seika, so he called on some other demons to attack him. But Seika managed to dispose of the followers without trouble and even succeeded in capturing one of them. He decided to take one of them hostage, so the demon leader decided to take over and finish Seika with his own hands. As he introduced himself, we got to know his name, which was Gil, and he also summoned a giant iron sword they planned to throw at Seika. But before that happened, Seika threw one of his paper figures. Then the demon decided to use the sword to defend himself from Seika's attack, and in an instant, the demon teleported and appeared behind Seika. Although Seika also teleported, he wasn't fast enough as the demon managed to cut off one of his arms. Then Seika asked him what he was doing there and what he wanted. So Will said that he was there to capture a hero named Andrew. Then Will, not wasting any more time with Seika, decided to attack definitively and succeeded in capturing him, then delivering a fatal blow and finally killing Seika, or at least that's what Gil believed. Because actually, Seika rose again without a scratch. He returned and stabbed a knife into Seika's head, but nothing happened, so Gil, very angry, threatened to kill him until he couldn't live anymore. He prepared for another attack, but this time stronger. However, Seika dodged and a fierce battle ensued where Seika managed to deliver some magical blows to Gil. Although Gil killed Seika repeatedly, in the end, it was all in vain because Seika showed his tough strength and intelligence, managing to capture him again with great difficulty. Then Seika prepared to end this fight and after preparing a big spell, managed to summon a large dragon named Mai Sushi, an oriental dragon that attacked Gil and devoured him in one bite. However, Seika didn't realize that Mai Sushi would try to exploit him to escape, making him slightly surprised. Nonetheless, Seika managed to capture him back without any trouble. After that, he made sure everyone else was okay, and when she arrived in the classroom, he met Yifa, who informed her that Mayo had dealt with the other loyal followers of demons summoned by Gil. Then, Seika continued to watch her, thinking about how to befriend her to gain her trust, because Yifa reminded her so much of herself in her previous life. So, in one way or another, she already knew her fate. In a scene change, the anime fast-forwarded 1 month after that incident. Seika heads to her class as usual every day, and she approaches Yifa while Andrew passes by. Seika decides to greet her very friendly, but Andrew asks her never to speak to him again, making Seika feel embarrassed. However, he doesn't pay too much attention to the issue because she plans to befriend Yifa. She does it very calmly, so she keeps walking, and at that moment, Seika realizes that there is something above her, so she quickly takes Yifa and moves to avoid the object hitting her. At that moment, a tutor appears at the window named Cordell, apologizing to Seika for the incident. Then he explains that it was a catalyst for his research containing monster blood and he was trying to lift it to the upper floor of the academy using levitation magic. But because he hadn't mastered dark magic perfectly, he accidentally dropped it. After saying this, he apologizes again and takes his catalyst before leaving. So, Seika and Yifa go to class, and there the teacher tells them that next week they will celebrate the academy's anniversary. So he asks for the help of Andrew and Yifa, who have become the top 2 students in performance, to be responsible for bringing the new student list to a temple located in the Ladonia forest. Then, Seika realizes that it is the same forest where Google appears, so in some way, he wants to avoid Yifa going to protect them. So, Seika asked the teacher what would happen if one of them refused to leave, to which the teacher replied that then she would have to leave because he was ranked 3rd in the class. After saying this, Seika told Yifa that she would leave because she planned to protect Yifa, and Yifa agreed without any problem. But this somewhat bothered the teacher because it seemed like Seika was displaying inappropriate behavior. So, Seika apologized to Yifa for making her feel bad, but she didn't have a problem with it because she knew that Seika had a reason for doing what she did. But to dispel doubts, Yifa asked if she liked Andrew, but she said that wasn't the issue because she just wanted to be friends with him. After all, he was very strong and there were few people as strong as him, so Yifa told her that everything was fine, but still asked her not to behave like that again because it made her uncomfortable, so Seika told her that everything was fine and she wouldn't do it again. After this, finally, the day of the ceremony arrived. So Seika received the list they had to bring and they started their journey. While they were walking, Amu asked Seika what she meant and she said that she just wanted to talk to her alone, so Amu thought Seika was pretending. But of course, that wasn't the case, and while they were talking, Amu had a slight headache. So Seika asked what happened to her and also realized that there was another very strange seal near them which was soon activated and they were moved to another place which seemed to be a kingdom. There were some monsters, but they were quickly destroyed by their abilities. However, there was another monster behind the girl, but she didn't realize it. Seika acted quickly and summoned a large shield to end the monster and save Amu. So, in that situation, the kids concluded that they were inside the demon's prison, so they looked for a way out, and Seika took out 2 of her paper figures to use as guards. Andrew was surprised because Seika also used light magic, but Seika said that she also had tricks up her sleeve which calmed Amu down and made her a little happy. Although she wanted to hide it, we still don't know why Seika is like that. Continuing by releasing and displaying small figures on the walls so that the figures outside the prison can track them and find a way out more quickly. With that said, let's continue with the summary. Meanwhile, the children walk cautiously. Yuki warns Seika that something big is approaching them. So Amu prepares her sword to face whatever comes. Then some very powerful monsters appear that Yo has to deal with. Fights bravely, but in a moment of carelessness, he receives a hard blow that knocks him unconscious instantly. So Seika takes advantage of the situation to summon a giant centipede that would easily deal with those monsters. When the girl wakes up, Seika has already overcome everything, even surprising her because Seika has healed all her wounds, including the very disturbing headache. Then she realizes that Seika has created a strong light shield, which is used as protection from curses. This, according to Seika, is what causes headaches for her. Then the girl asks Seika to check her to make sure she's cursed. So she agrees to undress so Seika can thoroughly examine her body to see if there's anything unusual. But after a somewhat uncomfortable moment for both of them, Seika concludes that she doesn't have any visible curses. So it might be an internal curse, and to make sure, Seika uses one of Amu's hair with a Sushigami to make an amulet that will protect her from this curse. In addition, Sanyo takes advantage of the situation to ask Seika if she likes Yifa and if they have no romantic relationship, but Seika explains that there is nothing more than friendship between them. He also talked about his family situation and how everyone ignored him because he was the child of his father's affair, and the only person who was kind to him was Yifa. That's why he appreciated her. He also asked the girl about her history and origins. So, told her that his mother was a very influential woman and that his father was a great adventurer. And about himself, he was a girl who liked fighting, which made her very unpopular in the guild because everyone thought she was crazy. So, it drove her to go to the academy to get away from the guild's bad reputation and at the same time become stronger, and then they continued their conversation on various topics. And in the end, when they finished, Seika invited her to fight together as friends and find a way out because they couldn't keep talking forever, so the girl thanked her and also asked her not to tell anyone that she had seen her naked. After that, continued their fight and searched for a way out, and they arrived in a large room where there was a big monster named a dragon, which was the head of this cave, which if they managed to defeat it, they might find a way out. So Seika suggested they fight it, but she already warned them that it was very strong and she didn't believe they could defeat it. But if he insisted, then they would do it, but if the situation got complicated, then they would flee. After saying this, they entered and started attacking, and while they fought, Seika found that the snake spat out quite aggressive acid. So Seika had a great idea and then summoned a giant spear that exploded upon contact with fire. So she asked Amu to throw a fireball right where the spear was to blow it up, and that way they could defeat it, which they did very quickly, making Amu very happy and hugging Seika joyfully for successfully defeating the cave head. After that, he found a big sword, so Seika gave it to Amu because she didn't use weapons like that. Besides that, they found a ring that Seika decided to keep because he felt a certain power within it, and this way they managed to get out of the cave. Although Seika always knew where the exit was thanks to the Shikigami, she never said anything because she wanted to have some fun with the year. After they returned to the academy, they were carefully interrogated by the teachers, so they had no choice but to tell all the details except about the girl's curse and Seika. And of course, they also didn't say that the girl was naked, which shocked everyone because no one knew about the existence of the underground room near the academy. But Seika, after the interrogation, went to Professor Cordell and there all her plans were revealed.